Welcome back to the channel, everyone, in another video about the MMIs, and I've done a couple of these videos already, so you probably have seen me talk or waffle about the MMIs for a bit. You've probably seen me talk about the MMIs before, but there are loads of videos that I've done on the MMIs and how to do well on them, my personal MMIs and everything. So there's an entire playlist of those things all up here, so if you want to go and check that playlist out, you can go and have a look at it now. Or if you want to stick around for the video, which is basically again going to be on some tips, but a little bit more detail today, and updated especially for this round of MMIs. I will be going through that, and yeah, that's primarily all I'm going to talk about really today. I'm not going to go into detail about any particular station, but if you do want me to go into detail about a station, you can let me know in the comments down below, or on my Instagram if you want to go more privately, and I'll be more than happy to try and fish out a video of kind of sorts. So yeah, I do hope you've enjoyed the videos, and if you're new to the channel, if you don't know who I am, my name is Akshi. I'm a second year medical student at Imperial College London, and I do videos like this. So yeah, if you do enjoy these videos, make sure to subscribe down below. It would really make my day, and I'd be very happy. It put a smile on my face, and yeah, that's basically the intro. That's everything I'm going to say, and let's get straight into the video. Before we get into the video, a quick word from our sponsors of the video. Now, if you're like me, and when you are preparing for your medical school application, the most scary part of it is probably your MMI, because it's the first ever time you're ever going to be live in front of the interviewer, and it's a really big part of the application process, because it's the last time you can show the university what you've got to get into their medical university. Now, the problem is that a lot of online courses cover the UCAT, BMAT, and a lot of other useful bits, but there isn't a lot of support for the MMI. Now, Medfully are a one-of-a-kind, self-guided platform that help you prepare for your MMIs, and it's really cool, and there's only one problem with it, and the only problem is that it wasn't around when I was applying to medical school. Now, luckily for you guys, it is around, and it's very new, it's just started, which means, obviously, that the prices are very good, because, it's a new thing. Now, what you can do on this is you can go online and prep through loads of practice questions, which are available for a very low price. As well as this, there are also a couple of things that set Medfully apart from its competitors, such as the ability to practice stations live, do practice runs of your MMIs, and also to just get a much better feel of the environment of how the interview is actually going to go, as opposed to just having a list of questions on a Word document. Now, Medfully is super important, and it's genuinely a really good platform. I wouldn't be promoting it if it wasn't that good and if I didn't believe in it. If you want to check out their Instagram, I'll leave it on the screen. As well as that, if you want to go and check them out, I highly recommend you guys do that. Their link is in the description down below. Just go and click on that, and it also helps support me as well a little bit. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind supporting me, and also getting a brilliant course, a brilliant website to help you support for your MMIs, which are coming around actually this season, go and check them out down below in the description. And yeah, let's get back to the video. Okay, so I haven't really explained this video too well, but essentially what this is going to be is me giving you a few big tips on how to do on the MMI. So in doing that, I will go through some of my personal experiences, some of my stations, some of the big things that I did well on, I think, personally, I may have done well on, and essentially passing that over to you. So let's start off, first of all, with how to actually prepare for an MMI. So an MMI is essentially, if you don't know, a station-based interview, or it's essentially a individual-based interview. It's one-on-one in various stations. So you'll have about 8 stations altogether, and you'll have them on different topics. So you'll have one station with a particular group of interviewers, or maybe 2 interviewers, and they will be talking about personal statements. You'll have another one about work experience. You'll have another one about the news. You'll have another one about the hospitals. You'll have another one about something. So, they're all different and varying topics, and they don't relate to each other necessarily, so you won't go to another relating station. They'll be, scattered all around the room. So you will have to be basically really good at just switching between different pieces of information and being able to rake out different pieces and being able to basically switch from talking about news to talking about your personal statement, to talking about Brexit to, whatever. And, you're going to have to be really good at this, technique. And a good way to do that is to just embrace yourself in loads of different sources of medical information, whether that be the news, whether that be podcasts, whether that be the radio. They will not talk about the same thing, because if they did, they would lose viewers very, 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 very rapidly. So they talk about a lot of different things. So the best way to do so is really to just listen to loads of podcasts, loads of radio stations, basically get surrounded by medical news and the medical environment, so that when you come to interview state, you're really adept at basically switching between different sections of the medical environment. And yeah, that's really all there is to it. Just being able to do that, and that comes with practice and listening to things and reading things. You know, you'll be able to do it subconsciously. You shouldn't be actively trying to do this, you should just be subconsciously doing it. And like I said, that comes with listening to loads of things and basically surrounding yourself with loads of medical information. The second thing is basically how to approach individual stations. So the stations that I want to talk about mainly are the stations like your ethics station, like your science station, roleplay station, these stations that are really difficult in all honesty to do, because the other stations, you know, like your personal statement, your volunteering work experience, are super easy. You know, you can just knock that out of the park, because they're going to ask you the same questions realistically. They'll ask you, what have you done, and what did you learn from it, and they'll ask you some follow-up questions that are pretty simple, you know, like how has that helped you prepare for medical school, or how do you think you could apply this in the real world, or how could you do better in your experience or your post statement, volunteering, etc. So it's going to be really, really obvious questions, and those stations aren't going to be the ones that differentiate the average candidates from sort of the really good candidates. The stations that will do so are stations like ethics, roleplay, science, those stations where you can't predict what they're going to ask you. They could ask you anything. There's so many questions out there that you cannot predict it. And that is all about adapting to a scenario. So, for example, on your roleplay, they will basically give you a random scenario. You can't predict the scenario they're going to give you because they got just infinite number of scenarios. But you can learn the basic key ideas. So you can learn about things like selflessness. You can learn about things like the 7 C's of the NHS, empathy, compassion, all these key values that they will apply to a particular scenario. So whenever you're reading your scenario in a roleplay station, you always want to look out for what the key theme is going through. And basically, once you've identified the key theme, it's a really easy thing to do. Just stick to what a doctor would do in that scenario. So that's all you've got to do. In the science station, there is, believe it or not, a science station. In a few of these interviews, they might call it a data interpretation station. They might just ask you scientific questions. They might be Oxbridge. Whatever it is, there will be some testing of your scientific knowledge, usually. And that might not, again, come through a science station in itself. It might come through a work experience station. They might ask you some science questions. So if you did work experience at a particular hospital where you saw patients coming in with things like rheumatoid arthritis, they might ask you a few things about rheumatoid arthritis, what it is, what causes it, some basic questions, nothing too difficult, but you know, the simple questions that you can get access to anywhere. So you do have to be prepared, and the way to prepare for science stations is to brush up on all your GCSE and try and do most of your AS level knowledge. It won't go further than that, so don't worry about A levels because they know that you haven't done them. And also to brushing up on any scientific knowledge you've mentioned in your personal statement, anything that you've done in volunteering, work experience, anything that you can bring up in your interview, anything that could get talked about in your interview. If there's science in it, make sure you have learned that science, and the extent to which you need to learn that science is a little bit further than your AS levels. So if it's about rheumatoid arthritis, you won't have learned about it in AS levels, but you do need to know a couple of basic things. If you're ever stuck on what you need to know, feel free to ask me. I'm happy to help out. I think that I can probably guess what kind of extent you need to know it. But it's basically, if it's a disease, something like, you know, what it is, what can result in the disease, how they treat it, and, you know, those really basic questions that you can find anywhere. I'll leave a couple of links to websites below that are really good at basically searching diseases up and learning more about them, and yeah, you can go and access those as well. And the final station is the ethics station, and ethics again is a difficult station because they can ask you so many things, but the best thing for ethics is that there are loads of websites out there that have your basic criteria of what you need to learn for these things. So things like SixMed, the Medic Portal, Kaplan, they have a whole list of like ethical principles that you need to know, and as long as you learn most of these things, that's enough. You just need to apply yourself in the ethical scenario. The biggest thing to remember is that in ethical scenarios there's no right or wrong or yes or no or true or false. It's always a vague answer. So whatever answer you give, there's always going to be an opposition and an agreement to your idea. So for example, if it asks you about how Brexit could impact GPs, there's always an idea of yes, it could be good for them, but also no, it could be bad for them. And your opinion can be either one of them. They will not discriminate you based on whether you've picked yes or no as your answer. So the full idea is you need to lay out both sides of the argument and just pick one, you know, whichever one you feel more opinionated towards, just pick that. So yeah, that's the essential basis of these difficult stations. These stations, like I said, are the difficult ones, so I'll leave them here. They are the tough ones in my opinion, and you do need to do a little bit of research before applying to those stations and doing them. And I guess that's everything. This has probably been a little bit of a short video. The only other quick tip I can give probably is just to be happy. Smile and do not learn answers. The two biggest things, or the three biggest things: be happy, smile, and do not learn your answers. If you come off robotic in any sense, they won't like it. They only like people who come in with, you know, that genuine sort of curiosity, that, you know, they bounce around a little bit in their seat, you know, they're clearly passionate about what they're talking about. That sort of free, relaxed, you know, vibe that you get from a candidate is really good, because it shows that they're comfortable talking about medical things, and it's what they're going to be doing potentially in medical school. So I guess that's everything. Make sure you smile, be happy, don't learn your answers, and you can follow the tips which I've just talked about. And yeah, that's everything I've got to say. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to check out Medfully as well. Their link is down below. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next video. So yeah, see you in a bit.